Here's a quick look at the top news from February 17, 2025. In a significant development, the latest talks between the United States and Russia on the ongoing Ukraine conflict took place in Saudi Arabia, bringing together high-level officials from both nations. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff sat down with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Foreign Policy Advisor Yuri Ushakov. The focus of these discussions is to pave the way for peace talks, exploring the possibility of a ceasefire and a potential normalization of relations between the U.S. and Russia. Despite some concerns from Ukraine and Europe about being left out of the process, President Trump has signaled his intent to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin soon to continue efforts aimed at resolving the conflict. European leaders gathered in Paris for an emergency summit to discuss the ongoing Ukraine crisis, underscoring the need for enhanced European defense capabilities and unwavering support for Ukraine. Hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, the meeting brought together leaders from Germany, Britain, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands, and Denmark, along with key EU and NATO officials. The summit focused on bolstering defense spending, the potential deployment of European peacekeepers, and ensuring a unified European approach to security, particularly as U.S.-Russia talks have left Europe on the sidelines. The discussions aim to reaffirm Europe's commitment to Ukraine's security in the face of evolving geopolitical challenges. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made it clear that Ukraine will not accept any outcomes from the ongoing U.S.-Russia talks on the Ukraine conflict if the country is excluded from the negotiations. Zelensky stressed that any decisions about Ukraine's future made without its direct involvement are invalid and unacceptable. This strong stance highlights the growing tension and complex diplomatic challenges as the U.S. and Russia continue their peace talks in Saudi Arabia, aiming for a resolution while navigating the delicate balance of international interests. The U.S. military has recently carried out a series of precision airstrikes in northwest Syria, targeting key operatives linked to Al-Qaeda. On February 17, 2025, a high-ranking finance and logistics official from the Al-Qaeda affiliate Huras al-Din was killed in a strike aimed at disrupting terrorist activities that pose a threat to U.S., allied, and partner forces. This operation follows a similar strike on January 30, 2025, in which senior operative Mohammed Salah al-Zabir was eliminated. These actions are part of the U.S.'s ongoing efforts to weaken terrorist networks in the region, with U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, reaffirming their commitment to relentlessly pursue those who threaten the security of the U.S. and its allies. On February 17, 2025, a Delta Airlines plane crash-landed at Toronto Pearson International Airport, flipping upside down on the runway during strong winds and snow. The Bombardier CRJ-900, operated by Endeavour Air, was arriving from Minneapolis when it lost a wing and caught fire. Despite the chaos, all 80 passengers and crew were safely evacuated, though 18 people sustained injuries, with 3 in critical condition. Emergency services responded quickly to the scene, and Canadian authorities, with support from the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, are now investigating the cause of the crash. Israeli forces carried out a targeted airstrike that successfully eliminated Mohammed Shaheen, the head of Hamas's operations department in Lebanon. The strike, which took place near Sidon, was a joint operation by the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, and the Israeli Security Agency, ISA. Shaheen had been involved in planning terror attacks funded by Iran aimed at Israeli civilians. The operation was confirmed by the IDF and the Israeli Foreign Ministry, marking another significant action in the ongoing tensions in the region. Reports have surfaced suggesting that the U.S. attempted to pressure Ukraine into signing a minerals deal during the Munich Security Conference. According to sources, the U.S. threatened to block a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance unless Ukraine agreed to the deal. However, after Ukraine refused, the U.S. ultimately backed down, allowing the meeting to take place. This move has been criticized by some as blackmail, with the diplomatic engagement seen as being contingent on the minerals agreement. The incident highlights the growing tensions and complex negotiations between the two countries amid broader geopolitical strategies. Elon Musk has publicly lashed out at CBS's 60 Minutes, accusing the program's team of deserving a long prison sentence. His remarks were in response to a segment in which the show featured a GOP critic of Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOE, specifically focusing on proposed cuts to USAID funding. Musk called out 60 Minutes for what he described as deliberate deception aimed at interfering in elections, labeling the show as the biggest liars in the world. His comments have sparked widespread controversy, with social media users and political commentators debating the broader implications for free speech and the role of journalism in political discourse. Mexico has threatened legal action against Google after the company renamed the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America on maps viewed by U.S.-based users. This change follows an executive order from U.S. President Donald Trump to alter the name, sparking international controversy. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has argued that the renaming is inaccurate, as it only applies to the U.S. continental shelf, not the entire Gulf. She has demanded that Google restrict the new name to areas under U.S. jurisdiction or face a civil lawsuit. This dispute underscores growing tensions over geographical naming rights and digital sovereignty. Europe is considering the deployment of a military force of 25,000 to 30,000 troops to Ukraine to monitor a potential ceasefire. This contingent would not be stationed along the contact line, but would act as a deterrent, ready to intervene if Russian forces attempt to restart hostilities. France is reportedly taking the lead in the planning of this mission, with plans to contribute around 10,000 troops, while other European nations face challenges due to limited military resources. To enhance flexibility, additional forces would be stationed outside Ukraine for rapid reinforcement if needed. Meanwhile, the U.S. has ruled out any involvement of its own troops in the mission. The U.S. government, under the Trump administration, has reportedly been pressuring Romanian authorities to lift travel restrictions on Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan, who are facing criminal charges in Romania, including human trafficking and money laundering, charges they deny. U.S. officials raised the issue during a phone call with the Romanian government, and Trump's special envoy, Richard Grenell, further discussed the matter with the Romanian foreign minister at the Munich Security Conference. The pressure involves requests for the return of the brothers' passports and permission for them to travel while awaiting trial. This development has sparked controversy, particularly given the Tates' vocal support for Trump and their prominent online presence promoting right-wing views. That's all for today's top news from February 17th, 2025. Stay tuned for more updates and follow us for the latest headlines. Be sure to check back tomorrow for the most important news from February 18th.